Hello everybody, welcome back to Growling Anvil Studios. This is the final installment of the video series on restoring the antique-free sewing machine. And I'm just working on this drawer. This is the worst of the drawers now. And the sides have peeled right away, so I want to glue those up. I'm making this call, this little gluing call, because the handle is riveted in place. It's not screwed in, it's actually riveted in place, and I don't feel like peeling the nails back. It really damage the wood, etc., etc. They call that clinching, by the way. It's clinched. So I got the call all worked up and just making sure that the strap is going to fit here. And the next thing I'll need is a spatula, a gluing spatula. And you can buy any kind of gluing spatula in nylon or PVC, silicone, every type of fancy bristle brush and spatula. But I just get these wooden strips. I seem to have a never-ending source of these. And you'll see me use a little technique here that's a very powerful way to carve. I just anchor my hand against my knee and pull the work back. Instead of moving the knife, I just pull the work back against it. I usually do that sitting down, but I wanted to keep it in camera frame there. So I got my hide glue all warmed up, and I'm just going to fill the area up with glue. Just coat the surface. I really, really like hide glue for this sort of a thing. For furniture restoration, there's really no better glue, in my opinion. There are glues that are maybe a little more resistant to moisture and heat. Hide glue is not resistant to moisture and heat, but I don't even consider that a drawback. I consider that to be a bonus because it means you can reverse what you've done. You can just apply a little heat, loosen it up, and go back at it. And unlike other glues, you don't even have to clean the old hide glue out. You can leave it in there. It will, the new glue going in will melt and bond to the old glue just very nicely. So I'm just setting up, going around checking. Got a nice cup of Scottish breakfast tea here. Of course, all my life enjoyed English breakfast tea and Irish breakfast tea. I never knew there was a Scottish breakfast tea, and I have to say, it's quite good. Quite a nice tea. So here I'm just wiping the excess glue off. One of the other benefits of hide glue is that it cleans up just with water. And even once it's cured and dried with a little damp rag, you can just sort of rub it. And eventually it'll all come up. So it doesn't harm finishes. It's really quite a nice glue. And since you have usually a little pot of water to warm it up, some people do it in the microwave. I don't have any idea how to do that. I just warm it up in a little water bath. And then that water bath is there as as a handy source of water for cleanup. So I got it all glued up, and then I noticed it was just open in some other areas that I hadn't seen. These drawers are pretty beat. They look actually pretty good, and when I first handled them, they looked pretty good. But the more you go over them, even just moving them around, things open up. They're kind of a unique construction. There's one flat piece of solid wood along the back, and then two little blocks on each end, which are solid wood. And then that curved portion is just a piece of plywood that's bent. It's oak veneered and bent around and just glued up. there are no nails. At least I couldn't find any nails. There are nails in the back. The back is nailed to those two blocks that you see on either end. But I found no nails in the front. It was just glued. So this one I'm gluing up. It's not as open, and so I don't need the pressure to be all the way around necessarily. I can get away with just pulling those ends in. So I'm using a pipe clamp here to pull those in. I only have one strap clamp anyway, so I could only have used one. I suppose I could have put two drawers back to back, but that's above my pay grade. The other thing about this high glue is it sets up very quickly, so you do tend to work with one spot at a time rather than, the open time on like a PVA glue is much greater. So you could do that. You could glue a bunch of things up and then sort of clamp them all together. With the high glue, I find it best to work on something and then just clamp that thing. Work on a part, clamp that part. My camera really doesn't like focusing here on this bench. I don't know if it's the water or what it is that's tweaking it out, but... All right, so what if you don't have any clamps? What if you don't have any clamps? Well, just get yourself a piece of rope and put a little loop in it, a little bite in the rope, and you can just wrap it up that way. Fancy clamps are nice, but they're not necessary. I remembered I had this little syringe from some stuff that I had gotten. I had helped a friend clean out an old barn, and in one cabinet was just a box of random things, and that old syringe was in there as a glue delivery device. Little split there in the back, you can see. So we'll get some glue in there. And one of the bottoms of another drawer that ostensibly seemed fine, but the bottom must have just been hanging on by a hair, because it popped right off when I went to wash it. We'll see that down the road. So I'm just cleaning out this syringe now, and clean up as a breeze. Just run some water through it. You're all done. All right, so this is the next day, and I've unclamped everything, and I'm cleaning out all the garbage with a vacuum cleaner and whatnot. That's the top right drawer that has the bobbin case in it. And next are the three drawers. There were a handful of drawers. There's that one with the loose bottom. It just popped off while I was cleaning. So that one's got to get taken care of. And then also while I was cleaning, I found some cracked veneer, which may have cracked. It may have cracked when I glued up the sides, but it seemed like it was two drawers I hadn't glued up. It's funny when you use the traditional glues like this hide glue, which is most likely what they were using at the factory. I can't tell. I didn't segregate them when I piled them all up to clean them. And one drawer I can really tell was the worst one. That one I can see. That first one that I glued up. And that one the veneer did not crack on. This drawer here has cracked veneer, and I can't remember if I glued it up or not. I suppose we could identify it by that little paint splotch there. I am not digging with my knife here. I'm just applying very light pressure to just pop that paint off, so that I don't, dig into the finish or dig into the wood. So I'm not gouging that. I'm just using it like a scraper, just barely touching the wood. And now we're getting everything wiped up. I'm using a commercially available degreaser here, just whatever was around, rather than the soapy water, because here again, these drawers were vertical and they were underneath the lip of the tabletop. So they're not nearly as filthy as that top was. That top really needed to be scrubbed, whereas these can get away with just a light degreasing. I just keep patting off the dirt and I keep checking my pad. When the pad comes out clean, that's when I stop. And I'll fold that pad if I fold it up so that I can expose fresh surface for each drawer. Even though it looks wadded up there, it really is folded. All right. That might be, yeah, that's the one I found that the bottom popped out of. So while I was gluing up the other day, I noticed that this clamp had split, and there's a big split in that clamp. So I took the back out. I'm just going to use that as a parallel clamp. I took the back screw out. And I'm going to glue up that back screw along with this second run of drawers. I went to tighten it up the other day when I was doing the other glue ups. I felt a little more give than I really should have in the handle, and upon closer inspection, sure enough, I had a little split running in there. So just taking an old candle stub, and I'm just melting old pieces of wax. I save all my candle stubs up, and I melt them down and make wax sticks out of them for use with my other machines. And so here I'm just making some wax paper to go around the joints. The hide glue is pretty sticky. You can pop wood off of it, but it's a strong glue, so you don't want to mess around with it. That's why I put wax paper down at the joint so that the wax paper won't stick, or at least will have less of a tendency to stick. So here I'm just going to use some twine. I've seen people use surgical tubing, but again, for me, surgical tubing is just another thing to buy, and it's another thing to think about and worry about and stock and store. There doesn't ever seem to be any end of string that comes in every kind of auction lot that I get. I get, bundles of string. This is some old mason string, just wound on a stick, and it works just fine. When I go to tighten it up, I just slip. Remember those fuses that were in one of the drawers? There are 3 fuses in one of the drawers. Well, they work perfectly as wedges to do a final tightening. So this is the other one that has raised veneer. And I just work some glue into the portion of raised veneer, clamp it down. It's really not an awful process if you have a little piece of furniture or something and you've got a little piece of broken veneer. It's something you could definitely try. And then this is that whole bottom, just using the syringe to really get some glue in there. And glue that bottom back down. I find it interesting that they didn't use nails here. I don't know what the reasoning was. All right, so little old English. Here again, that's something that came in an auction lot, or from cleaning out people's garages or basements or what have you. I've never purchased a bottle of that. I think I have 4 bottles. I have more than enough to last my lifetime, and whenever I go to clean out a basement or a garage, there seems to be another bottle. But it works pretty well. I kind of like it. It definitely does a good job of getting some oils in there, and something like this that's going to be a functional piece rather than a real showstopper piece. I'm not looking. You can see in the light here a lot of splotchiness on the finish. I'm not really looking to turn this back into a showpiece. This was intended as a working tool, and I just want to clean it up, make it nice, make it work again. So that's the perfect place to use these garage sale finds. Just showing you there that the back of my knife is curved. I don't want you thinking I was digging in there with my knife. I designed that with a curve specifically to be able to burnish into. Well, I learned a ton during this project. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and subscribe. There'll definitely be more to come.